The courtroom was packed. Rows upon rows of people sat in intense silence, the air thick with anticipation. Overhead, the dim lights buzzed softly, casting a dull glow over the polished wooden benches. At the front of the room, Judge Richard Holloway sat high on his bench, his fingers tapping impatiently against the desk. An older man, well into his 60s, his silver hair and deeply lined face bore the marks of years spent scowling at defendants. To him, this was just another routine case, another face, another name, another waste of his time. What he didn't realize, however, was that today would be different. Today, the person sitting before him was far from just another defendant. And today would be the day his arrogance cost him everything. At the defense table, Danielle Carter sat with a quiet confidence, her back straight, her expression unreadable. She was dressed sharply in a crisp navy blue suit, her black hair neatly pulled into a bun. Her presence commanded attention, but Judge Holloway didn't bother to notice. "Where are you watching from today? Let us know in the comments below." To him, she was just another black woman who had gotten herself into trouble. His smirk widened as he glanced at the case file in front of him. He hadn't even heard her speak, yet he had already made up his mind. This would be easy. Letting out a small chuckle, he shook his head. Well, he mused, his voice loud enough for the entire courtroom to hear. Another entitled individual who thinks the law doesn't apply to them. A few jurors shifted uncomfortably. The prosecutor, a younger man in his 30s, pursed his lips but remained silent. Meanwhile, Danielle didn't so much as flinch. Judge Holloway glanced up at her, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "Let me guess. You're here to claim you were wrongfully arrested? That this is all just some big misunderstanding?" Laughter rippled through the room. Danielle's lips curled slightly, not the nervous smile of someone afraid, but the knowing smile of someone holding a secret. The prosecutor cleared his throat, adjusting his tie. "Your Honor, the defendant, Miss Carter." Judge Holloway cut him off, leaning forward with amusement. "Let's not waste the court's time. Why don't you tell me why you think you're special?" Danielle finally spoke, her voice smooth and controlled. "With all due respect, Your Honor, I'd prefer to stick to facts rather than opinions." For the briefest moment, Judge Holloway's smirk faltered. He didn't like the way she carried herself, too composed, too unshaken. Most people in her position fumbled, stuttered, begged. But she sat there like she owned the room. "Facts," he echoed mockingly. "All right, Miss Carter, let's hear your facts." Danielle exhaled slowly, then reached into the inner pocket of her blazer. Immediately, the bailiff stiffened. Judge Holloway scoffed, ready to make a comment about reckless behavior. But then, she pulled out a small black leather case and flipped it open. For a moment, the entire courtroom was frozen. Inside the case sat a golden badge, its bold, unmistakable lettering gleaming under the dim light. Judge Holloway's face drained of color. The prosecutor's pen slipped from his fingers, clattering onto the table. A few jurors leaned forward, eyes wide in disbelief. Danielle placed the badge on the table like a royal flush in a high-stakes poker game. Then, with a voice steady and clear, she spoke. "My name is Special Agent Danielle Carter, United States Secret Service." Judge Holloway's jaw tightened, his stunned silence betraying his panic. Danielle let that moment settle before continuing, her tone unwavering. "And before we go any further, I believe it's important to acknowledge that my arrest was not only unjustified but also a direct violation of federal law." The judge swallowed hard. Reaching into her bag again, Danielle retrieved a sealed government document. She slid it across the table toward the bailiff. "This," she said, "is an official complaint drafted by the Department of Justice. It details the numerous violations committed by the officers who arrested me, including the falsified report that landed on your desk." Judge Holloway's hands gripped the edge of his desk so tightly that his knuckles turned white. "You see, Your Honor," Danielle continued, her voice calm yet commanding, "the officers who arrested me never bothered to check my credentials. Instead, they assumed, because of the color of my skin, that I must have been doing something wrong." The prosecutor's face was now a mix of shock and fear. Frantically, He flipped through his documents, as if trying to understand how he had missed something so crucial. "And now," Danielle said, her gaze unwavering, "I find myself in front of a judge who, instead of conducting a fair trial, mocked me before hearing a single piece of evidence." Her words crushed the room. The courtroom was deathly silent. Judge Holloway looked as though he had aged 10 years in mere minutes. His arrogance had evaporated, replaced by a suffocating panic. Danielle adjusted her blazer and met his eyes directly. "This isn't just about me," she said firmly. "This is about a system that allows people in power to abuse their authority without question. But today, Judge Holloway, you questioned the wrong person." She leaned forward slightly. "And I promise you, this is far from over." The prosecutor shot to his feet. "Your Honor, in light of this new information, the prosecution requests that all charges against Miss Carter be immediately dropped." Judge Holloway's lips pressed into a thin line. He looked like he wanted to disappear into his chair. Clearing his throat, he muttered, "Case dismissed." The gavel came down. But for the first time in his career, it wasn't his authority that silenced the room. Danielle gathered her belongings and made her way toward the exit. But just before stepping out, she paused. Without turning fully, she glanced back, her voice deliberate and loud enough for all to hear. "Next time," she said, her words slow and sharp, "think before you laugh." And with that, she walked out. Judge Holloway sat there, pale, humiliated, and knowing his career was over. Because after today, the world would hear about this. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.